My mother, she deserved a better life. She deserved a better mother. She deserved to have a better mother. She deserved a better husband. She deserved better children. Hey guys, it's Marcus here. I know it's been a long time. I'm going off script today. I thought about writing it down, but I figured it would be better just to go off the top of the dome, just to go from the heart and tell you what's been going on. First off, welcome back to Black Boy You Need Therapy. I wanted to just be real with you guys and just tell you what's been going on with me and why I haven't been recording videos in a little while. Today, I just came from the hospital in Elk Grove. My mother is not doing very well, and I'm not doing very well because of it. And my mother, she was diagnosed with bone cancer. She was diagnosed a couple months ago, and they transferred her from her nursing home in Rogers Park. First, they took her to Lakeshore Drive, hospital on Lakeshore Drive, and then they transferred her to Elk Grove in order to get a tracheotomy. It turns out the tracheotomy wasn't necessary, but she's having a few issues that are preventing them from moving her back to the hospital on Lakeshore Drive. Her cancer is in her bones. One of the masses is in her neck, and it was pushing against her thyroid. That was making it difficult for her to breathe, which is why they wanted to do a tracheotomy to make it easier for her to breathe. Right now she's breathing okay, so they decided against the tracheotomy. But it was also making it difficult for her to swallow, and she was having difficulty eating. So they inserted a feeding tube. I don't know if it was because of that or if it was something else, but she has now she has an infection in her blood, and she also came down with 2 blood clots in both her arms. So now they have her on antibiotics and they have her on blood thinners. Me and my brother, we went to the hospital to see her today, and she wasn't looking very well. In therapy, one of the biggest issues that I've had in therapy is dealing with guilt over my perception, my feelings of failing my mother. And I thought that might be a good topic to talk about today. Only because given the nurses and the doctors, the way that they're talking to us now, it looks like my mother might not have long left. And it's hard enough feeling like you're gonna lose your mom soon, but it's worse feeling that you failed her. I mentioned before on this channel how difficult it's been dealing with guilt, but I haven't really gone too much into it. I think that maybe the best place to start is just letting you guys know who my mom is. So she was born in 1949 right here in Chicago. You know, she was a South Side girl, born and raised. She grew up in the Robert Taylor homes. She's seen every ugly and every beautiful thing about Chicago that anybody could name. She saw Martin Luther King marching through the streets. She saw the Blues Brothers movie. She loved to tell me how she was almost featured in the Blues Brothers movie. She was standing on the corner when all those cop cars were rolling downtown. She was right on the corner, right off camera when it happened. She was coming from work and she actually thought that there was a real police chase going on. It wasn't until the movie came out that she realized it was just a movie being filmed. She saw the beginning of some of the most violent gangs that still exist in Chicago today. She grew up when the Blackstone Rangers and the Disciples, who are now the GDs and the BDs, and the Blackstones, of course, you know, most people call them the Moes now. She saw the beginnings of all those. She's seen the violence that's erupted from all of those things. She grew up in the projects. My grandmother sent her to Catholic school. She grew up, she had a very lonely childhood. She was an only child. My grandparents divorced when she was 5. And my grandmother wasn't very much of a mother at all to my mom. My grandmother was, you know, she was in the streets. She had a lot of boyfriends. She paid more attention to what other people thought. She paid more attention to what men were doing for her than she paid attention to my mom. So my mom was raised by books. She was raised by television. And she grew up to be a voracious reader. But she loved the movies. She was a sci-fi geek before that was even a thing. She was a Star Trek geek before that was a thing. She was an Anglophile when that wasn't even a word. She watched Doctor Who on Channel 11 and I believe it was 63. Old school Doctor Who, like the 4th and the 5th Doctor. And that's what she grew up doing. And later in life, my grandmother decided she wanted to be saved. And she became every stereotypically negative thing you can think about a religious person. She was judgmental. She talked down to people. She was homophobic, despite the fact that my mom kind of hinted that my grandmother might have fooled around with a woman or two in her day. She judged promiscuous girls, even though she was plenty promiscuous in her day. every negative stereotype of a religious person you can think of. That was my grandmother. And my mother's, the thing that makes me smile is that my mother, her way of rebelling against that was to become basically what every religious person should be. She, in a bout of defiance, she had herself baptized Catholic, which especially back in the 60s and 70s was pretty rare for black people to be Catholic. So she had herself baptized Catholic, and she became she became what religious people should be. My entire life, she was slow to judge, quick to forgive, sometimes a little too quick to forgive in my opinion. And she taught me and my brother to be the same. She taught us to always see the good in everyone. That no one should be judged by their worst mistakes. So she grew up taking care of people. She took care of her little cousin. She was a babysitter. She looked after everyone. And that didn't change as she got older. She met my dad and she fell for my dad because he protected her against my grandmother. But my mom didn't understand that wasn't enough. So she tried her best to be the best wife she could. She worked full time. She took care of me and my brother. She cooked. She cleaned. All those things that men these days keep saying women don't do. My mom did. And she was always tired, which is the part that a lot of guys these days don't want to mention. My dad, he was in the streets. He drank. He cheated. He cared more about what everyone thought about him. He cared about his image more than he cared about what was going on at home. He bought rounds of drinks for other people. He bought other women's children's taffy apples when they were on sale while we were at home with the lights out. And my mom persevered. She never complained. She cried, but she never complained. I guess as a side note, this is why it's always been difficult for me to empathize with a lot of guys these days. Because I know that there are women out there who they just want to love the shit out of you. And all they want in return is for you to love the shit out of them. I grew up with a mom who didn't care about, she didn't want a rich nigga. She didn't want, all she ever wanted her whole life was just a man who cared about her, really cared about her. She didn't care about material things. She took care of all of us. She took care of everyone. Then my dad died. My dad died in 2001. My granny died in 2000 and left my mom the house that had been in my family since 1971. And my mom, against my better judgment, got a second mortgage in order to get some home renovations done. And when she was diagnosed with dementia, I had to take care of all of that. She was already behind on mortgage payments. She was already in debt. And after I had to kick out a few freeloading relatives, and when I became my mom's guardian, things weren't looking good. So when the court started looking into things, they didn't like the way I was handling what was going on, and they took away my guardianship. We lost the house. My mom went into the nursing home, and me and my brother, we ended up here in our little apartment. And then COVID hit. Like 2 or 3 months after my mom went to the nursing home. And we went a year without being able to visit her. A year she spent in a nursing home alone with mild dementia, not Alzheimer's. She wasn't vegetative. A year by herself on a floor with people who were in worse conditions than she was, and nurses who, even though they were attentive, they were too busy to just sit with her and talk instead of being in the home that she'd been in since she was 21 years old, because I lost it, because I fucked it all up. Her whole life, she's been alone. She was alone when she was a child. She was alone when she was a teenager. She was alone when she was married. And she was alone in that nursing home. It wasn't my fault in the beginning, but it was my fault at the end. And now she's alone in a hospital in Elk Grove, dying. She could have spent 2020 in her own home, if not surrounded by family like she always wanted to. She could have been with me and my brother, but I failed. She had my mother, the kindest person, the most selfless person I've ever known in my life. She had a bad mother. She had a bad husband. And she has a bad son. And now she's all alone. She's all alone. all alone. And I'm not coping with it very well. All I can think about is how I felt. How I could have made these last few years better. But I failed. When I talk to my therapist, every time I bring this up, I've brought this up for more than a year now. My guilt. And they tell me not to blame myself. It's not my fault that my mom got the second mortgage on the house. It's not my fault that she has dementia. It's not my fault that she has cancer now. It's not my fault. I was only 25 when I took over as her legal guardian. And they say there are people in their 40s who struggle taking care of a loved one as a guardian and figuring out how to live their lives. And no other 25-year-old would have done any better than me, but I keep hearing that. But I can't accept it. All I see is what I could have done better. All I see is all the times that I focus on myself. All the selfish things I did, just as selfish as my father, just as selfish as my grandmother. When she got that mortgage on the house, I very, very half-assedly tried to talk her out of it. I should have done more. I should have argued more. But I was 23. And I was running around doing whatever dumb shit 23-year-olds do, probably trying to impress some fucking girl. When I should have been trying to talk my mother out of getting a mortgage on a home that she already owned. She had zero debt at the time. The house was paid off. And she got a mortgage to get bullshit done. They tell me I shouldn't blame myself for that. They tell me I shouldn't blame myself because I was so young when I became a guardian, as if that's an excuse. As if I couldn't have done better. My mother, she deserved a better life. She deserved better. She deserved a better mother. She deserved to have a better mother. She deserved a better husband. She deserved better children. And now she's dying. All alone. She's been alone. She's been alone. She's been alone her whole life. Because nobody cared. I didn't write a script. I didn't write a script. As if you couldn't tell, I didn't write a script today. I just can't sleep. I think it's a little bit after 2 a.m. I'm just kind of ranting, just venting today to you guys. Yeah. I'm gonna talk to my therapist on Wednesday. And we're gonna talk it through some more. I just wish it didn't have to end this way. My mom is one of the few people in this world that I've ever met who's truly been selfless. She ran around after me and my brother. She taught us right from wrong. She's the reason why I'm a voracious reader, because she was. She read to us when we were children. We still have some of the books that she read to us. We still have the Brothers Grimm. We still have other fairy tales that she read us. She's the reason why me and my brother tend to be on the sentimental side of things. Every good thing about me came from her. And now she might be leaving soon. And I don't know if I'll ever be the same, knowing that she deserves so much more and I didn't give it to her. She's lived a life of giving to others, and nobody, including me, gave her what she deserved, gave her the same. And I don't know if I'll ever be the same. So I thank you guys for listening, and I'll pull through somehow, some way, but this is why therapy is important, and this is why I still advocate for looking after yourselves and talking to people. So I'm not doing well now, but I still encourage everybody watching this to look after themselves, and maybe down the road we can find a way together to heal.